Today we're doing a transmission removal on an FRS or BRZ or 86 or whatever you want to call these things. Step 1, as always, is disconnect the battery. Before raising the vehicle, we'll disconnect the slave from the transmission housing, as well as the ground and 2 electrical connectors that sit on top of the transmission. Be patient with the electrical connectors as they are easy to damage. Also, be sure to take the engine harness and release it from its mount as well. The last thing to do before raising the vehicle up is to loosen and remove the 2 transmission bolts that are on top of the bell housing. Once in the air, the first thing we do is soak the front overpipe in PB Blaster or Deep Creep to make sure that these bolts come apart easily later. Next up is drive shaft removal, starting with the 4 bolts back by the differential. Definitely take note at which side the washer sits on. The center support bearing is held up by 2 bolts about midway down the drive shaft. The drive shaft should come free fairly easily after removing the center support bearing and the rear bolts holding it to the differential. Next up, we start removing the front pipe, which has 2 spring bolts towards the back. Typical rusty bolts towards the front. and a hanger bolt towards the center. While the transmission fluid doesn't have to be drained to remove the transmission, this is a good time to service it while you're already in here. Next up is removing the starter bolts and all the bell housing bolts. At this point, it's a good idea to support the transmission with a trans jack, or if you're on the ground, a standard jack, and a couple extra friends. Next up, you need to remove the shifter pin, as well as the two side extension pins that are on the aluminum bracket attached to the transmission. This is a good time to remove the transmission support mount. We like to apply gentle pressure to the exhaust manifold to tilt the engine slightly backwards. This helps the transmission come off a lot easier and gives us better angles. These transmissions are often stuck on and might require a little bit of persuasion. After that, it's just a matter of wiggling until the transmission will finally break free from the bell housing. And if you're pulling this transmission out because of the throwout bearing noise that tends to happen, this is probably what you'll see. Be sure to replace the retainer cover, the bearing, the pivot ball, and the fork if necessary. Please use the 2017 and up parts. Installation is a reverse process. Thanks for watching. Hey guys, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the content, please go ahead and check out some of my other playlists or hit the subscribe button below. Really appreciate you. We'll see you next time out of the track.